room. So I appreciate you all joining me for this I feel like it was last minute, although we did schedule it last week. But I wanted to provide updates to the campus as we move into the spring semester. There's a lot of chatter on a lot of different things. I think the time between the semesters, if there was such a thing, was more crazy and like busier than ever before. I've never seen a Christmas break or holiday break with those 4 days being so busy. We've rolled right into January. There's a whole lot going on the system front, on the state front. I'll fill you in on that. And then of course, the whole discussion on moving forward into spring semester and what does that look like? Can that look different? All of that. So I wanted to give you an update on it. So what I'm going to do is I do have I want to say short presentation, but I don't know, it might have got kind of long. That's 18 slides. That's not too bad. I will put that up on screen. I'll walk through that. If you guys have questions, you're welcome to interrupt, but I kind of want to run through it start to finish and then catch the questions at the end. But you can also put them in the chat. We've got a couple people monitoring the chat like we normally do. So with that, let me see if I can get my screen going here. So I'm assuming you guys can see that. I see 3 of you on screen. Somebody's got a nod. Natasha's nodding. Perfect. Okay. I do that in class too, because I never know what window pops up. For all I know, it could be email or something I don't want anyone to see. So there you go. So spring 22, welcome back. So I welcome you all back. I'm looking out the window. It looks like a normal day. It's a little bit chilly. There's not as much snow on the ground as we had hoped, but we do have this looming questions on the COVID and the Omicron and things going on as we move to the start of the spring semester. So what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about NCHE master planning, the workforce study, presidential transition process, enrollment budget, advancement, staffing, and then COVID, and then student initiatives. I stuck COVID near the end because I imagine that'll spur most of the questions. I wanted to end with our students in mind, so I put that slide at the end. So we will land on that and then I'll come back for questions. So I'm going to talk, those of you who know me, which is hopefully most of you, I do talk pretty fast. I'll try to slow it down just a little bit, but you don't want to be here all day either. So we'll move through. A couple of these first slides are more informational. I wanted to make you aware that the higher ed system is doing its master planning. It kicked off some listening sessions this month. If you get invited to those, I suggest you participate if you can. They're on Zoom, they're on site. We will be hosting one going forward in the spring, so it'll be convenient, again, both Zoom and in person. What they're doing is they are working through a new version of these lines: access, success, close achievement gap, workforce, and research. That is the NCHE goals, high-level goals. I think it's a pretty good time to be doing this. Well, it's never a good time to be doing it, but we never have time to do it. But for right now, if the system walks through this process and comes out with something this summer, and then we can piggyback any kind of strategic planning on top of that, like we've done in the past, because our goals line up to this, then I think we're in a better place. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is this will be my 20th year with NCHE. At a little stint at the system office, time at TMCC, and then the latest season here. This is the first time I've heard in strategic planning the idea that we are a system and not 8 institutions and a system office operating independently. And this is, I mean, it's bubbled up, but this is the most cohesive focus on that element that I've heard. And I like that because when we talk about enrollment, we talk about the feeding frenzy that is enrollment. We don't want to be, trying to poach each other's students. We all want to have discrete missions. So Western has a traditional community college mission, rural mission, and that's much different than, say, the College of Southern Nevada or the University of Nevada, Reno. So if those get differentiated, I think we'll be better off moving forward on not only who we are, but what we could offer. Part of the planning session overlaps with this workforce study. The first meeting will be on the 27th. It comes out of Assembly Bill 450 out of the 21 session that talks about community college workforce training and programs. That's a long way of saying they're looking at what community colleges do. And this is, again, being here 2 decades, this is the 4th time I've seen this type of study. Because it was a bill that was put up by the governor, I believe they're looking for some change to the community college technical training components going forward, that they'll put forward in the 23 session. The first meeting of 4 will be held on the 27th at 1 p.m. It is streamed. It will be hosted at both system offices. I have to present on our workforce initiatives. I have 5 minutes and 5 slides, and we'll do the best we can. But one of the things is that this legislation requires a study with recommendations to come out on August 1st of this year. So this is actually turned into a very tight timeline. And this overlapping with the strategic planning means that this summer we will know a whole lot more on the direction of not only the system, but the statewide emphasis on workforce training and where we fit as a college and where the other schools fit. So this will be available. We can send out information, but if you want to jot it down, if you want to watch this, if you're interested in it, this will be happening on the 27th, 2 weeks. The duplicate photo, but hey, it's such a great photo. The presidential transition process right now, for those of you who don't know or have tired of reading my emails, I'm currently serving as officer in charge of Western Nevada College. I'm happy and proud and honored to be able to do that. It's not been a time lacking any kind of high-level decision-making, so it's a fun place to be, and I say that cautiously, but it is fun. I enjoy it. I like this level of work. But I'm serving as officer in charge, and the next step is to identify through the process that is articulated in the Board of Regents handbook how we move into the next president, whether that is an acting, an interim, a search, and not an appointment, and who that person could be. So this Friday, our board chair and co-chair, the chancellor and one of the vice chancellors will be holding listening sessions, virtual and in person. The information has been distributed by email, so I encourage you to participate, go there, share your ideas, thoughts, listen to the questions they ask, and help guide that process. I expect the timeline on a decision for what the future will look like will be made somewhere around the March board meeting, and then we will go from there. So again, awareness this Friday, you should have it on your calendars. We sent out some invites on this. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit, talk about enrollment. Fall 21 over fall 20, we were up 3%. This bucks a serious national trend of being down. You'll see on the next slide, we're down about 1 million students nationwide. We have not had that problem. Part of that has to do with the overall enrollment of the college not being huge spikes and valleys, being more level throughout the last 5 years, which is good from a staffing, service level, and financial standpoint, because we're not seeing huge numbers of students come in and that we might not be able to serve. And at the same time, we're not seeing declines in enrollment that would affect our budget and our finances. You can see the numbers on the screen there, 3% up from fall. Allied health is up. Some of that's due to new initiatives in nursing, but definitely the new paramedic program. On the right side of the screen, you see some enrollment and retention investments. It's not only important for us to get students, it's important for us to keep them, to get them through. We've increased the number of tutors. For those of you who remember, the board has mandated us to have a 351 student to each advisor or counselor. We were at 550. Because of the student success fee we put in place last year, we were able to hire more people. We are now down, we've now made that 350 to 1 ratio, students to counselors. And so that is really good. That's a check it off the box in a way to keep us in the best practice, which is that 350 to 1 ratio. Spring semester is shaping up. It's gone up and down just a little bit. Early December, we were down 40%. I appreciate all the hard work everyone did to do the back end requirements for the student vaccine mandate. I appreciate all the hard work everyone did to walk that back in a matter of 6 hours, it seemed like, if not less. And that will probably end up being something we look at in the future. But for spring, there was no longer a student vaccine mandate. After 4 months of thinking there would be, that has put our spring enrollment on a little bit of a roller coaster. The numbers you see on screen here are 2021 spring compared to now, we're down about you can see the numbers, 4.3% headcount. The number I watch is the weighted student credit hours. That ties to our funding. That's a negative 2.7%. The count year is even more important. That's the next group down. The thing is we will probably bounce back to within 4%, which I expect to be really good on the weighted student credit hours. That really means that more students are taking classes in areas that have a higher weighting level, for example, the CTE classes and maybe in some of the allied health. So the enrollment picture has picked up quite a bit. I don't personally, without any data, think that the vaccine mandate was a statement by students that they weren't going to enroll, and they did all of a sudden overnight. I think it's that they had a hold on their account, probably didn't pay any attention, and the next day they could enroll, and they did. I don't know that for sure, but I'm guessing, having talked to a few around campus and seeing the changes that happened overnight just because we released the holds. Either way, moving into spring, I feel very comfortable if the levels stayed at they are, that we could do well with our budget. I can't see Darla and Coral's faces, but hopefully that's true, because we're definitely are better off than we were being double digits down, and we will rebound and we will have some late start classes. So that's our enrollment for spring. One of the things that, and again, I'm going to just keep boogieing through, so jot down any questions you have, and then we can stop at the end. One of the things that we had to do January 7th, right out of the chute coming into the new year, was budget presentation to the chancellor and her staff. And this is a standard fare the January before the year of the legislative session. So we are already planning for the 2023 session. What we were required to do was they provided an outline, and we went through and we showed them all things related to the state appropriation, including enrollment. We mocked up some scenarios if certain funding was not restored, if we did adjustments here and there. And so I'm not going to give you that whole hour and a half presentation here. I'm going to show you some of the highlights. One of the things that is being talked about primarily is reduction in restorations. I have worked every legislative session in some capacity since 2009, and more times than not, I feel like we're going to the legislature and we are saying, can we please have our money back? And then when we get it, we feel good about ourselves. Very few, it's probably been 2 or 3 sessions, have we actually walked out of there with something new, which is a little bit disheartening, but it has been how the world has been the last 15 years anyway, with the Great Recession and then the pandemic that hit us in a different way than any other recession. But that's what we're looking at this year, is going into it and saying, can we please have back the 12% budget reduction? For those of you who don't remember, I blended these 2 slides that I've had. You would know that, but this is why there's 2 biennium on here. The current session, 22-23, we are down $1.8 million. That represents a 12% reduction on our state operating budgets. That is split between salaries, and that is split between operating. And you can see the numbers there, 1.29 million and 518,000. We were asked what happens going forward if those funds are not restored. And of course, we will have to make some changes. The operating is the lesser of it. The good news here is that in the 21 session, if you remember back in May, they restored the 1.29 million using federal ARP funds to the state. So we were able to build back those positions that we were holding vacant. So we received out of our 1.29 million back. Our intent is to say, please restore the 12% permanently going forward into the next session. If I had to pick one of the 2, I would pick obviously the people over the operating. We can trim up operating, but as we're seeing, we're already having trouble with staffing, and we don't want to have to go down this road of either not filling positions or having to eliminate positions. When I talk about in bullet 3 there about without continued funding beyond the current biennium, there's 18 positions that are accounted for in that 1.2 million. I don't know if those 18 positions, if we had to start cutting, would be the ones that are cut, or if there would be other vacancies that could offset that. We won't know that till we go forward. Our priority right now is to shore up and get the 12% back into our base budget. And that's the big ask from NG and all the other institutions as well. There's very few things I've heard of. We have a couple, but that are give us new money for something because we want to be able to, do something new. Right now, we're all trying to survive based on the budgets we've been given. Part of our survival since 2020 has been based on the HERF funds, which are out of the CARES Act. It stands for Higher Education Emergency Relief Funds. There's two buckets of this. This dollar amount you're seeing here are the amount that was directly distributed to students, $3.8 million, or will be directly distributed to students once JW and crew disperse the last amount this spring semester. That's a way to help students. It's a way to get federal dollars to student populations using their federal profile through the FAFSA. This money does not come to us unless the student decides to pay for their tuition and fees. However, we do not disperse it unless they're actually a student. So they're already students. So that's the good news. More importantly, for overall operations are the CARES funding and HERF funds that we received for the institution as a whole, which totaled just under 6.5 million. You can see the numbers on the screen. The percentages on the right have already been changed because we're completely spending these, because all of these funds, whether it's the student bucket on the previous slide or whether it's the institutional pots on this side, have to be expended by mid-May of this year. If we don't spend them, we don't give the money back, we just never get it. I can guarantee you right now, we will not leave any money on the table. However, if you have expenses, or if you are one of those groups that is has an encumbrance out, or you're looking to buy something, or you haven't thought about it, but you're thinking about it, now's the time. You do not want to wait. We need to know about that. We need to have it encumbered because, and we have to receive the item, whatever it is. So if you're waiting for something, you don't think it's going to come, let us know. We'll try to find other funds for that, and we'll spend the money somewhere else. But we're very fortunate to have these funds that you see in front of you. We've tucked some away. Darla has worked for years in the finance office trying to build up our reserves so that if we have a rainy day, we can have a rainy day fund. We've moved that up from 3.8% of our operating budget up to 14%, which is a national best practice, which is good. So we do have some money tucked in reserves, because as we go past May of this year, there is no more federal money. So we're making sure we utilize it for everything that we need to, as well as tucking it away as appropriately as we can to use it going forward into FY23. So this is actually the final slide that was in the overall 30 or 40 slide presentation to the chancellor and her crew. Some of these are in priority order, but I wanted to walk through them because I want you to be aware as a college community what I have gone in front of the chancellor and asked for, in coordination with her staff, in coordination with several groups here on campus, having talked through it really quickly in the month that I had to put, not even the month, but the 3 weeks that we had to put this together, and talking to some of the other campuses and getting the guidance from the system office on what is reasonable. So the list you see here, top, is the budget reduction restoration, which is the 12%. That is the headliner item. We want to make our budgets whole going into FY24 and FY25. The capacity programs, which is 3 sets of programs that we fund out of a $300,000 appropriation from the state, includes dual enrollment programs, nursing program, and underrepresented populations programs. We want to keep that. That's been a moving target as whether they would continue to fund that, but we're asking for that. Prison education program, which is getting harder and harder to deliver because we can't necessarily get into the prisons under the current environment with the COVID. That is a separate appropriation, and we'd like to continue that. The one you see in the middle, it's the HEPI, H-E-P-I, weighted student credit hour adjustment. What that is saying that we get paid a certain dollar amount for each weighted student credit hour, and we would like to apply the higher education price index, which is an indicator of inflation, to that to get an increase in each weighted student credit hours value, which amounts to us $305,000 per year. So that's an adjustment based on inflation, but it is a new ask on the table. The line that follows after that, the one that says weighted student credit hour CIP 51 increase. I'd love to run a trivia session on what all these acronyms mean. That is the classification of instructional programs, the SIP code. 51 is allied health. That is asking for increasing the allied health program weightings from a 2 to a 4, which would drive additional funding from those programs. The reason we isolate those a certain group of programs is because we're picking one that we think we have a good shot at getting. And allied health areas, which includes everything we have in nursing, EMS, paramedic, definitely fits that bucket because those are programs that tend to run high cost, need new equipment, but also to expand to respond to the pandemic's effects on the healthcare industry. We think we can sell this one. So if we were able to get $1.2 million more from those programs, we could expand them, but we could help also use money to build new programs that we might not have. The Fernley Center, $4 million. We've talked about a Fernley Center. There's a proposal we've put together. The Fernley Center is an idea of taking a building in Fernley, buying it, renovating it, and using it for programs in that market. It's a $12 million facility. We are asking the state for a third of that. The other will be matched from a federal grant and private giving. And then the last one is the TBDs are not the merit pay adjustments that we're talking about for the 1% going into July 1. This would be an additional look at faculty and all employee equity study that they do every year that does not really get much traction at the legislature, but we think it's important. So we keep it on the list because we want people to be knowing that the economic environment around us is putting a strain on our existing staff and helping us or hurting us recruiting new staff. I'm going to pause there because I see 3 things in the chat. Is there a question or should I keep going? Oh, NNC, more back to normal.
Keep going.
Okay. So we got, so the prison's back to normal numbers. I'm assuming that's for enrollment, not for attendance.
Just the one site.
For people getting in. So our total ask, and again, I could go through these and tell you which ones are likely, not likely, based on experience and based on what's going to go in the bucket. But we, the 12% reduction, making us whole, is the biggest one. And that's where I started, where we're going to go into the legislative session feeling good about ourselves for getting back the money that was taken away. And that's kind of a weird place to be, but it's more common than not, believe it or not. So I want to note, as we talk about some doom and gloom on the numbers, I asked Nikki to put this together with her staff to talk about the advancement office. There's several different things going on there. They've got some new staff there. If you haven't been through there or want to do a Zoom to meet people, because that's kind of the way we do things now. But to give you some numbers, scholarship awards are up. You can see the increase from 20 to 21. And now it's looking like it's going to be up again from 21 to 22. That's good because that allows us to put money in students' hands to be able to take classes. And again, part of that is helping them offset costs. It helps us build enrollment. It helps us serve our mission of access and getting them in the door and into programs. Grants are about $2 million. We need to do quite a bit more in external funding all around. I'm glad we finally got to hire a grant writer back. We lost our grant writer in 2020. April's now with us to write grants. One of the things I've done in one of my past seasons was ramp up the institutional advancement office and for fundraising and running gift campaigns and running grants, because we cannot count on the state. When I say we need $4 million for the Fernley Center, I don't really think we're going to get it. So if we want a Fernley Center, we're going to have to find that money on our own. There's just not much of a option to get state money to fund that, even though it's only a third of the cost. The endowments are up. That's a pretty significant one, 47% increase. Endowments, again, are money that donors put into equivalent of a bank account, and we draw down the interest to pay for things. So it has to be at a certain level in order to pull down interest. On the right side, you can see the marketing website, traffic, media exposure. I won't go through each one of those numbers, but we are getting more and more hits. We're getting more and more likes. We're getting more and more, whatever you call it, on TikTok, because I am not in that space, as most of you appreciate. But we are getting more and more viewers all over the place, including our website, which, if you haven't noticed, was able to add the element of video to the front page, which actually makes it quite a bit more dynamic. Rachel in Nikki's office has done that in coordination with Ryan. And I think it looks a lot jazzier than it did before. And to be honest with you, the website is the #1 marketing tool we have. And so we need to invest time there. So kudos to this group for bringing in stuff. Everyone's doing a heavy lift. I just want to make you aware of these numbers, because these do support all college operations. Now let's talk about staffing. So that's our high this will be the low for the day. So staffing, the one in the middle there that says the whole world is short staffed, please be kind to those who showed up, was at the UPS store when I went there at lunch to do an Amazon return. And there's one kid working in there, and I was like, I wanted to give him like a prize or something. I was like, thanks for coming, here's your WNC mug or something. But it's real. It's showing up everywhere. We are feeling it. On the right is another image with some of our stuff listed down below. We are searching a number of positions. It's getting more and more competitive to hire people. It's getting harder to find more of you, which I greatly appreciate all of you sitting on these committees, because we're trying to sort out the parameters of our policy for number of people on a committee, and then each one needs to come from a certain department. And now we're out of people, it seems like. So our recruitments are expanding, and we're just hoping we get people in. The Great Resignation, they're calling it. A lot of people have decided to retire. And then we're always looking at compensation elements, whether it's existing workforce, but also bringing people in. Right now, we have a long list of vacancies that have actually put me to the point where I'm calling it a staffing crisis. I took the word crisis off there, but the reality is right now we've got 14 plus positions that we're looking to hire. The computing services director, for those of you who don't know, and Ryan, I don't know if you're on the call, but Ryan will be moving on to things in his new neck of the woods where he is. February 1st, we were able to run the search. I appreciate the group who helped with that, to hire a computing services director who's currently being onboarded. We have vacancy in a scheduling coordinator, scheduling assistant, dual enrollment advisor, administrative assistants. I think last week we had 1 administrative assistant among 3 divisions, so we have vacancies there. We're looking for a roads program person, project manager in facilities, custodians. If you see some, high five them, because there's only 4 of them around, 2 that work at night, groundskeeper, maintenance tech, mail services tech, on and on and on, the list goes. We're trying to backfill with people to fill these positions. On the academic side, we have several searches going to shore up the permanency and faculty lines to tenure track, political science, biology, English, nursing, to name a few. We are working on this. It's very, very tricky, because we find ourselves in a serious position where we don't have time to hire people to put more time in the day, which is kind of one of those circles of crisis that we're in right now. So we continue to move forward. We will continue to hire people and then work to keep people here once they're here. The COVID discussion, mitigation, et cetera. A lot of discussion going on this. Hopefully you got to read my email. I was trying to time it out before I had this meeting today, because it gives a lot more detail. One of the things that's the way that we're operating, and this is from a little bit from the state down, but definitely from the system level down, is this idea that we're in an endemic, which I think I don't know if I spelled those right or not, but endemic is more of a way of living with something rather than waiting for it to end. The pandemic is never going to be over. We need to think about it never being over. Maybe it will be over someday, but for right now, to keep the world open and moving forward and not have to go into hibernation like we did in 2020, we need to be thinking about it as how to mitigate it. And the way I frame this with the groups I've talked with is, I consider mitigation here as a thing, as a way to prevent the spread of COVID, to keep people safe. And then there's a number of strategies under that help with that, whether that's masks. We're not really doing distancing, but we could limit number of groups, whether it's vaccinations, whether it's remote instruction where needed. All of that is in those buckets of strategies to mitigate the COVID outbreak, whether it's the Delta, the Omicron, or the next one that comes up. The idea and the piece that I want to make sure you guys know and you hear me say is that I have been in my short time as officer in charge. I've been at 2 board meetings in the last 3 weeks. I did help write an author a letter with the other presidents supporting the employee vaccine mandate. I do acknowledge that there are some things clunky in that policy, but I believe it's the right thing to do. We've also offered up a support letter for bringing back the student vaccine policy or requirement. That stresses me a little bit because most of you know I live and breathe enrollment, and I know that has or could have an adverse effect on enrollment. However, the public health crisis has to be put ahead of that. And so please be aware that those are the discussions that are happening. The chancellor has sent a letter from the system to the governor and the State Board of Health to reinstate the student vaccine mandate, which likely, if it went into effect, would go into effect for fall semester. So those are happening out there, and those are ways that we can mitigate it on campus, but that are really higher level than us right now. We can support it, we can talk about it, we can do the heavy lift to make it happen, but it's something that's out there. One of the things, though, that we have to be cognizant of is this expectation that we will maintain operations. We will keep things going. I put in my email message that we need to, we are instructed, and I believe it's the right thing to do, to stay open. Now, when I say that, there are going to be cases when we can do, where we can have instruction move remote as needed. We can work on that by a case-by-case basis. We will work through that on a case-by-case basis. We will make sure the environment is safe and do everything we can. As I move down this list, one of the things that we're looking at doing is how do we manage unmasked students, employees? What kind of masks are we wearing? We've ordered 2,000 of the KN95s. We're going to give those out to obviously employees, but we will make some available to students, and we will keep ordering more and more. Eric, I'm sure, will send a very, very nicely worded description on what the difference between an N95 and a KN95 and a KN94 or whatever the differences are, but he has researched it and bought what is the widely accepted to mitigate the disease face-to-face, and that we can actually get. So we're doing that in an effort to keep people safe and have those options. We're looking at test kits. We're trying to order test kits. They're restricted when you go to buy them. It's like you can order 50 a day. So Tracy in President's office is ordering 50 a day, and we even have people volunteer to use their home addresses because you can only get 50 per address. So we're trying to get as many as we can so that we can test here for employees as needed. The student testing piece will come next. A couple of pieces there, the new desks. Craig has spec'd out a way to have desks that fit in the classroom and actually naturally distance people more than we have in the past, rather than cramming 3 or 4 of them at a table. The desk width and depth is configured so that we can have people distance. Even though we're not required to do that, it helps going forward, and we've paid for it out of CARES money. And then classroom cleaning came up today. I appreciate the nursing discussion. That was a group I was in today, asking about could we clean classrooms after each class. We're looking at that. I don't know how to do that because we're very short-staffed on custodial. We have engaged in that in the Ormsby group, who is on campus helping us with paper shredding. They also can do some cleaning. They've been helping. They're more than willing to help. So anybody we can deploy to do this, I think is great, because we need to have that done. So we are cognizant of this. My email has a lot more detail in there. I am meeting with the academic directors because the wording that I put in there, that compelling reason to move a class online, has to be defined. And I'm not at the place to do that. I can talk through it with you later after I have like two more slides, but we still have to come up with a definition of what that means, because we are expected to be open. Although I do have the flexibility as officer in charge to make exceptions and to make things, work, because we are on the ground here, and we have to be able to do things to mitigate the disease, which could include moving classes online and limiting the size of events and restricting food at events, because that way people don't take their masks off, and onward for whatever other things we can think of. This is actually my last slide, then we can go to questions. One of the things I did want to talk about is the student success initiatives. several things going on. I know there's a lot of you working on this. I don't know if Heather's on the call or not, but we've got, I appreciate Andrea and Heather meeting with me from the student government perspective, student leadership. We have the food pantry. We are working on the Equity and Inclusion Center, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Center. The Veterans Center has kind of gone dark because we lost the person spearheading that back in 2020. We're going to try to bring that back if we can find staffing. A big thing that has come up is the mental health support. We are looking at that. That's an initiative of the chancellor. That's also one of the pockets of money the system's going to go after. So if we can help students and staff with mental health support and be able to fund it from an outside source would be even better, but we need to look at that. Student clubs, we are expanding ways for students to engage and network while they're on campus in a safe way. And then that fitness center that few of you use, we have started to, we decided to make it simple rather than complicated, and find a way to buy 2 new treadmills, 2 bikes, and 2 ellipticals or something like that, and get rid of the stuff that's in there because it's at the point where it's a safety hazard. So we will find some money to keep that going with maybe not as variety of equipment, but at least it'll be treadmills that the treads actually rotate. So for the use of the students and employees, but it is good to continue to think about fitness, even though most of us are doing that at our homes now. There is an ability to do it here if you wanted to. So. And with that is my formal presentation. So what I'd like to do now is, if you have questions, I can answer. I'm going to stop the share and answer them. I can go back to slides as needed. I can try to realize if chat, or I can run for cover, whatever you guys prefer. But go ahead and shoot. If there's let's start with the chat. Are there questions in the chat that went unanswered?
Kyle, the questions in the chat have already been answered.
Okay. The booster question got answered?
Yes, there is a new one. What is the absolute day for CARES? That must mean spending the CARES funds.
It's spending for CARES fund. It's the absolute day for anyone named Terry Mendez is April, not May. It has to be delivered. It has to be delivered. Coral, do you want to give me a date on that? I would say
April 30th. April 30th.
30th. Okay. April 30th. If you don't have it by April 30th, we got to pull back, find other funds, and cancel the order and get something different. What else, guys? What else? So I'll answer Stephanie's question on the, and thank you, Jim. I will hit that. I meant to mention that on one of my slides. So the CARES funding, there is it's gotten a little bit more, I don't want to say lenient, but we've been able to justify different things. Anything that helps offset costs related to COVID mitigation. So we've used it from things like filtration, add-ons up in the the buildings in the AC units. We've used it by masks, PPE. We've got plenty of masks and PPE, the regular masks, not the N95s. We used it to buy the N95s. I've used it to buy anything related to remote work or remote instruction. We can use it for that. We are looking at some instructional equipment, a CDL trainer, because it encourages social distancing by rather than having 2 people in a truck, you can put somebody in the trainer, they can get some time. Plus it's a good way to build up that program. So Stephanie, if you have a specific need, if you want to, you're welcome to shout it out now, or you can shoot it to me and Coral, and we always just screen them as they come in. And what I do is I look at it and say, it can be paid for out of funding, out of CARES, or we can find another funding source for it. So the merit pay discussion. So as you remember, we did it, let me back up a little bit. This July 1, there is a 1% COLA that goes into effect for all state employees. There's a 1% merit that has been approved by our Board of Regents for administrative and academic faculty. That is something that we fund at the campus level. They're going to discuss it at the March meeting. I have committed us to be able to do that for our employees, those that would qualify for it, because it is it's 2 of the groups, admin and academic faculty, basically non-classified employees. So We are committed to do that. The policies and procedures to do that were scripted many years ago. Unfortunately, the timing is against us a little bit. We have to use those. So the incredible math calculation on some of them, we'll have to figure out how to do that. And look, when we are able to look at it going forward to see if we want to simplify it. I just don't know if it's too late to do that, but that would be a 1% increase going into effect for July, which would be August paychecks. So does that, Jim, does that answer your question? Oh. Some of you, I see Jim talking, but he's on mute. And some of you on the admin side probably got an email from Lauren today. There was some restrictive language in our policy that we wanted to correct because we didn't want anyone to go excluded. So we did some housekeeping on the language. It's very minimal. I consider it a technical adjustment, not a rebuild of the policy, but I wanted to get that done in front of the board staff or the system staff before moving forward so that we don't exclude people. I'll move on to, I would love to have students spray down before they leave, Rochelle. I just don't even know if we can't get some of them to wear masks, how we're going to get them to do that, but that's not a bad idea. We do have the hallway things, but those are kind of complicated. So all these are good suggestions. Let me just take it. We'll just figure out if it's spray bottles or even the, tell me what's better, spray bottles or those Lysol wipes. Either way we could do it. So I would say it doesn't hurt. We can also put plexiglass in classrooms like we did back in 2020. I know that's a hassle. We can also do, as faculty members, if you want to rearrange the room a little bit and you want, call Craig, somebody to help you or do it yourself. If you want to push back that first row, you can do that. I mean, you can do that kind of stuff. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't want you to hurt yourself doing it, so we can help you. But to put space between you and the students are not required to social distance. But you can distance from them. And the spray questions just keep going. So we can do however you want to do it. We can do spray bottles. Craig, let's make a note of that and connect with me on that so we can make some more spray bottles available. Let us spray. Oh, thanks, Jim. Okay, so what else? Questions? I have never given that complete of a presentation that there's no questions.
Is a possibility that some Zoom class will be coming back? I missed the first part. I'm so sorry. But I'm teaching online, but I don't know. I did Zoom last year, and I don't know if they're still thinking of bringing Zoom back.
So that's a good question, and I want to because we have a lot of faculty. I can see the faces. So we need to be prepared for anything, which includes if you're teaching an on-site class only, which is roughly about a little bit, just a few below our halfway point. So we think we've got 325 or so on-site only classes. The rest of them are either hybrid, online only, et cetera. So about half of our classes are on-site only. As an instructor, you should be ready to do something online if needed. I don't want anybody in this virtual room to get sick, but chances are somebody's going to get sick. And if you're exposed and not sick and you can still teach from remote, you can deploy that for a week or however many classes to you're through that stage. But you got to be ready to do that. If you don't have that technology or you're not sure how to use it, connect with your academic director, because that is stuff we can fund through the CARES money, whether it's a part-time faculty member, maybe you don't have the laptop, or a full-time laptop. I think we got a laptop to everybody who wanted one on the full-time side, but part-time we can check one out to you for the semester and do what we need to do. So classes that are 100% on site need to have that kind of backup in their mind, which also includes using the Canvas shell, which everyone's supposed to be using the Canvas shell because students are paying a fee for that. If for nothing else, for a repository for your syllabi and other class information. You may not use it for grading. I would prefer you do, but if you don't, that's one thing. But to have an actual Canvas shell for each class is important because that allows you to connect with people when you can't necessarily come to class. Think back to late or early December. You know, it's not the pandemic, it's the snow, it's the weather. fall, it was the
Yep.
fires. I mean, it's all kinds of things that disrupt our operation, including COVID, including the flu, you name it. And students who might be in Yerington driving to Carson and there's a snowstorm, they might want to deploy remotely or at least be able to do that for a day or two. So having that ability built in, the reason I mentioned the on-site only classes is because if you're teaching asynchronous online, you already got it covered. You don't have to worry about it. If you're teaching a hybrid with a Zoom component where you're teaching in front of a group and then you have a Zoom link, you've already got it covered. So it's the ones that don't, that are just on-site only to back yourself up a little bit for using the technology, Canvas and remote video. So that's a long way to get to your answer, I hope, but it's one of those things that I would say be prepared. And if you don't have the technology, let us know because we can facilitate that.
Is the booster going to be required for any time, or I
So-
missed that? I want to talk about it, but not much.
I'm not right now, Eric, am I right there? Right now, the booster's not required?
Yeah, it's not required now, and at the system level, there's no talk of requiring it.
Okay.
So the question is going to become like, as we go into future years, does the COVID booster become like the flu shot, every year you do it, but right now it is not, like Eric said, not required.
Thank you.
Now there is some language in the information I sent out that if you have, I'm trying to remember because I don't want to misspeak, but if you have the booster and you're exposed and you don't have symptoms, then you don't have to isolate. If you have symptoms, whether you've got a positive test or a negative test, we want you to not come and share the experience with us. But think about that because it's in there, and I know Eric will be diligent sending out the latest and greatest. But those kind of what happens if you get exposed has changed quite a bit in the last couple of weeks with the 5-day requirement, and if you have a booster and no symptoms, et cetera. I know people that they have every symptom and they test negative, and it's like, okay, but you probably got it, so take care of yourself and stay home. So
Exactly. Never know. Yeah. Thank you.
Amy, you're asking a question. I won't be on Zoom while doing an in-person class. Do we need a camera? I'm not quite sure. You mean like, do you mute yourself like this?
No, like I'm not going to be on a computer. I'm going to be doing an in-person class with the whole class. But if
Gotcha.
one student calls in and they're sick, how can I make it possible for that person to be able to still attend and still teach the class?
So that's a good question. If it's one student who's out and you're doing your printmaking or history or however, I would say, it's awesome if you could record something, but if you don't have the time or it's last minute or you don't know till after the fact, there's not much you can do except work with a student as if they had called in sick for that class anyway. It would be great if we had a way to you had a way to do the video or had time, but if you don't have the time, then I get that. But if you do need a camera and you want to do that, let us know. We can get that camera. We can pay for that out of the CARES money.
Kyle,
Yeah.
this is Troy. So all the rooms now have the new IPEVO document cameras that are also web cameras. So if you needed to do Zoom or anything like that, that's directly connected to that IPEVO camera. I know Randy Miller has done a lot of presentations or some presentations on that, but every academic room has that IPEVO camera. Very simple to set up. If somebody's sick, you could schedule Zoom and then you'd have that Zoom camera going.
I had one in my classroom last semester and it works really well. It's got really good resolution. And then this little camera is the one I have been using before that. So, and this is a nice stand and you can just take that into the classroom if you need to. Last semester, I Zoomed all of my classes for students that were absent, so.
With the IPEVOs, you got to remember if you're Zooming to hit the invert button, otherwise you're videoed upside down.
So, and I would yield to all the instructors in the room to correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think about everything that's done in the classroom and pushing that out to video, and the instructor giving a demonstration is one thing, the instructor speaking but showing a PowerPoint. To me, it's more important that students see the PowerPoint in the materials, if it's a printing press or if it's a rock from one of your classes, Winnie. But but also be able to hear and see the slideshow if there's a slideshow or the visuals. But if you're off camera, it doesn't matter as long as they can hear you. So think about the mics as well. And I do have some of those cameras in my office in Bristlecone. If you want one, let me know. I've got a couple that we stocked up on that I can just give you right now to use. But back to your question, Amy, if you have one student who's out and you're doing a demo, that student somehow you would work with them with a makeup under normal conditions, however you do that. If you've got half out, then that's a different scenario. That might be something that you say, okay, I'm going to have to film maybe and do that lecture a different time. But that's kind of in the weeds on what you guys do to get the students the content they need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I was reading Jessica's. Okay, what else we got?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, last semester, all my classes started out as in-person classes. And it really got out of hand at the beginning because students said, oh, I don't feel good, I'll take the tests online. And it was just going all over the place. So I finally told them that I'll do anything online for COVID only. Of course, do whatever it takes for COVID. But they were they're trying to call the shots when they're going to be there, when they're going to take the test. And I said, nope. And I said, if you don't have COVID reason, you won't be taking the tests online. We'll arrange some other time. And so that really helped me during the semester to get order, because a lot of the students thought it was whatever, they could show up whenever and do it all any way they wanted. I said, nope, COVID only for Zoom. And that rung things in and made it doable instead of, being pulled in all directions.
Right. I appreciate that, Gary. And I was going to say for everyone, outline that in your syllabi, or at least in one of the modules in Canvas, put a statement out there that says, you're willing to give flexibility, but put parameters around it in advance, certain requirements, because if you have that documented, either way, I want to be able to back you up on this. And the way I can do that is if you've got it in your materials so that they know that going into the semester, because students will ask for everything at this point in time. They will.
Yeah, and it's different for science courses because the labs, you got to be there to do the labs. And so that it was important to get them to come to the labs.
Right. And so I'm looking at Jerry, at your comment again, however you guys want to work it at your level, but put parameters in if you're giving limited flexibility because they can do lectures online, but you want them in there to do the labs, which makes sense, or you want to give them the ability to do all the Zoom. As long as you clearly articulate that to them, then if there's a complaint comes in, we can back it up and support you on that.
One other question.
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
So that camera that when he showed the nice little camera on a tripod, or I need one in one of my classrooms because we have one in the lab and I was carrying it from the class to the lab, and then I forget it and then I have to go get it. And so how would I get where I could get one more of those little cameras, like on a little tripod for
Gary? I wrote your name down, but shoot me and Chelsea an email and we'll get you one.
Okay, thank you.
And those new cameras that Troy was talking about, they're better. It's a really good camera, and it has close-up possibilities for showing samples, or you can see all the way across the classroom. You can read the clock in the back of the classroom. It's really good quality, the M video or eyes video or whatever they're called.
IPVOs.
Yeah.
Yes, those. They're really good quality.
Great.
I want to go back real quick, and Jana, I won't forget your question because you're asking about the syllabi statement. The one that's in the Canvas shell, Eric, we just need to review that. I believe that's accurate. I've already rolled it over to I've already did some updates. Josh, I don't know if you guys have been in there and changed it from fall toolbox to spring or however you guys word that, but that's the latest version in there. I'll double check that to make sure it looks good to me. There's nothing really new. You can add to it if you'd like. One of the things I wanted to tell you about too, I got two other topics and I can keep answering questions, but this mask So when we talk about the mask mandate, I know there's different pockets of, well, what do we do in high schools, and what do we do performing arts, and what do we do in the cafeteria, and what do we do? There's those pieces, but we are under an indoor mask mandate. So if you are in, you saw it in my email, that was actually a text that handed down, but it's accurate. So if I'm in my office now, the door closed, I don't have to wear a mask. You guys are all in the same environment, but if once we move, we're masking. So there's a couple things on the mask piece, because I know it stresses people out. I am the first one probably that will run over to the Keurig 2 offices away without a mask and be like, oh my gosh, if it's like one of those dreams where you wake up and you realize you have no clothes on in the middle of the street or something. I'm like, I don't have a mask on, somebody's gonna see me. So if there's masks everywhere, carry some extra. If you realize you don't have one, go get one. Please be nice to others that don't have one. Hand them one, give them one. We're looking at student ambassadors who can go around and pass them out. I've spec'd out this program with, I called Nikki on it earlier and said, I have one of these great ideas. That basically means it's going to add to her to-do list, and I appreciate that. We're balancing between carrot and stick on this one, because we want to enforce it, but we're getting so numb to it. It's like, we're just like, can't you just put a mask on? So I'm looking at doing a program of mask rewards where we're going to give people cards. And as you see people wearing masks, or particularly students wearing masks, you can give them this card that is automatically enters them into a raffle for some cool prizes. So Coral, you don't even know about this. We have to find some money for some cool prizes, which we can do out of CARES, but a way to kind of incentivize an awareness without going after the people who aren't wearing them necessarily. We'll do that too, but going and acknowledging the people who are wearing them, because the mask is the simplest way to prevent the spread of anything, even if it's COVID or flu or just the sniffles. So so we're working on that as an incentive process. But I do, and I'm not thinking about the problems you may have in classes. And there is a script and a guidance that's in the toolbox that talks about students in class who will not put on a mask. If that happens, they're required to wear a mask. I realize you're not going to call the police on them. You're supposed to call campus security. That's part of it. But we kind of need to see how it plays out. But if you have a student who will not wear a mask, we will take them out of that class temporarily. We will talk to them. We will put them through the student conduct process, and then they won't be admitted back until they're ready to do that, because it is a mandate on campus. It's not even our mandate, it's the governor's mandate. But if we had the ability to do that, it would be our mandate. So I do realize that you're going to be face to face, not only with people you pass in the hallway, but also students who sit in class. And I'm here to support you handle that. I'm just not sure. Like, I can't pop over there and make somebody wear a mask. I mean, I could if you text me and say, come over to 144 or something, but likely that's not going to be practical. But we have that guidance in there. Please review it, and Eric and I are constantly looking at it and figuring out ways to make this work, trying with an incentive program versus beat them over the head with it. But there should be nobody in class who's not wearing a mask. So please report back to me. Let me know if you have any problem areas. Let Eric know. We will work on figuring it out for you. But I do understand if you're standing there 15 minutes into class and somebody that disrupts your whole period. And I understand that, but we're trying to help you on that as best we can. And Emily, I do see yours with the idea. It's not only wearing the mask, it's wearing the right kind of mask, and it's wearing it properly. That's the other thing. It can't be the drop down mask that doesn't cover the nose. So Winnie asked about the good masks for students. Eric, do you have the ETA on those masks or no? Please tell me it's this semester.
We believe that they will arrive this semester, yes.
I mean, this week?
They were ordered almost 2 weeks ago. The ETA was given when they were ordered as between the 21st and the 28th. That's 2,000 masks. So if we use those for students, they're going to go really quickly. We're getting some more ordered as soon as we can.
So I'd like to get those in the hands of employees first and foremost. And I think I need to figure out a distribution point. We'll send some out to Fallon and Douglas, but we also need to probably have it maybe in the copy center. I think would be a good distribution point. That's where we've been distributing other things. So, and then we can get some for classes after we take care of employees. So Eric, let's talk about how we can just order more. I know you're already on it, but let's keep that going.
Answer Jana's question
Which one? Sorry.
about syllabus statement for COVID.
Oh yeah, I touched on that. So it's in the toolbox. And I'm gonna go and read it after this and make sure it's the latest and greatest. I believe it is. It's in the, there's two pieces. There's instructional information for you in the instructional toolbox. Then there's another Canvas module that I made with the help Chelsea and I made that has pieces that you can put into your syllabi that include everything from the COVID statement to disability services statement, et cetera. So if you don't have access to that, let me know. Josh and Justin, if you guys, can you help me make sure that's a public module? I'm pretty sure it is.
Can I just add something real brief to that?
Go ahead.
My desire was to add something about a recommendation of a N95K, N95, KF94 or similar, and a recommendation that single layer cloth masks are demonstrated not to be effective. I would sort of like that for that to go into syllabus if people have, time to wait, try to get that in there today or tomorrow. If in the interest of time, you're wanting to get your syllabi complete, what is already there is absolutely fine.
Eric, go ahead and add that. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Similar to what the airlines do, where they say, the bandana doesn't cut it. So we
Right.
can know their language. Yep.
Yeah, last semester, I put the mask recommendation in my syllabus, and like Emily said, I had a lot of students at the beginning of the semester wouldn't put them on their nose. So all I did was get out the syllabus and read the recommendation again and where they had to put them on their nose, and didn't have any problem after that.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And one of the, like I said, we don't want to, we're going to make students go in front of student conduct if we have to. We don't want to go to that level. So if we can get it to where you simply read it and say, oh yeah, okay, there you go. I mean, it's tricky, but we want to do it. Thank you, Justin and Josh, for flagging that. If you click on that link, assuming you guys get that there's a set of modules that are things that you can lift directly to your Canvas class, or even copy that module over, and then you don't have to redo it. Very good. What else can I help you with on Tuesday afternoon, the Monday, Tuesday?
Oh,
So,
Kyle,
go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that we have a new student success coordinator, Tyler Golden, and we're partnering with him with the WNC experience. It's a Canvas class in which all WNC students are enrolled, and it addresses mental health needs broadly, the experience of a typical week in a 16-week semester. And it's very much a student-driven conversation. And when we're talking about creating a positive, resilient atmosphere in the face of COVID and all these other things, that's a resource for everyone and for teachers as well, because there are a lot of great questions that'll be posed to students to get them to reflect on their experience. And it's not that you should outsource these discussions necessarily. They do have a place in your classes, but it's a dedicated area for student life, for these conversations about their health and well-being across the semester.
So Josh, thanks for that. Are they, and Tyler, welcome. I know he's here some. We have several new staff, which we'll do introductions at some point. I'll probably shoot out a note. Is that available to everyone that shows up? I think I lost it on my.
It's not available to our instructors, because unless you're a student, but this Friday we'll be holding a very brief session, and we'll be sending a message out about it soon. If you want to, it will take you on a stroll through it, talk about what it includes. And then if you can attend that, we'll put some informational materials in the toolbox as well. But that's a handy resource for our students.
So I want to jump real quick. You guys are seeing my canvas. This is what I'm talking about. It should look like this. The face coverings memo will probably get updated. I think it's Eric, we should probably look at this just to make sure, but it's still good. We may be ahead of it, like you said, if we put different types of masks on there. So that's what you're looking for. It's pretty simple. It says overview for students, accessibility, but then COVID related is down the bottom. Okay, answering Stephanie's question. Stephanie, I know we've had a lot of conversations about performing arts. And so we overall, regardless of the discipline, we can inform students on whatever I send in that email. You're welcome to share, snip it, clip it. We'll try to put it up. But the idea that if you are vaccinated and exposed, you don't have to quarantine unless you have symptoms. You are welcome to tell them that. Again, we can't really ask people if they're vaccinated. But we
So
can
is it
provide that
just
information.
is it just the honor system?
No, I see what you're
because
saying, yeah.
I'm in a situation where they are not socially distanced, they're not masked, they're dancing around on stage together. And do I just say, we lost Susie because she has COVID, and so as long as you're vaccinated, you can stay in the show? I don't really know what to do here.
Yeah, I know, Stephanie, and I know we've talked about it, and we're just so held hostage to the regulations. This is why the student vaccine policy helps us, because it would help you out right away. You'd be done.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's continue to talk offline with Eric.
Okay.
You're talking about, but you do wear masks through most of the.
Yeah, until we have final dress and they're in makeup. Yeah, they're in masks. So we could talk about that privately, but I think it affects everybody. Because if there is a faculty member with somebody who tests positive in their class, then anybody who's sitting near them doesn't need to quarantine as long as they've been vaccinated. So is it the honor system there?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most frustrating things about my job. Honestly, it is the honor system. Basically, what we have to do is we have to say, we have a case where you may have been exposed to COVID-19. Based on our risk analysis, you may have been exposed to COVID-19. If you were vaccinated and boosted, you do not have to quarantine unless you start to show symptoms. If you were vaccinated more than 6 months ago and are not boosted, then you have to quarantine for 5 days. If you are not vaccinated, you have to quarantine for 5 days. And of course, all of those are followed up with, if you start to show symptoms, you have to quarantine immediately.
So should this be in a syllabus?
You can certainly add it to your syllabus. I've actually sent that out, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago. I can certainly provide it to everybody again.
I would add it too.
Copy and paste.
I would add it too. And Stephanie, I would say, encouraging students who, if a student says it's okay to share this with the class, then we're okay to share it with the class. So
It's okay to share.
If somebody goes out sick and sends you an email and says, I've been exposed, I'm having symptoms, I'm not going to be at rehearsal, and you were to write back and say, do you mind if am I permitted to share this with the class in order for the public good, or however you want to phrase it?
Oh, so we can't even share that without their permission. We can't say.
More ideal to have the permission. It'd be easier if you had the permission. If you don't, you have to use the vague statement that Eric just gave.
We can't say the leading man is gone tonight.
Yeah, we got the understudy.
That's the same situation we have in classrooms. Obviously, people are going to know who's gone. And especially in your case, if one member of the cast is gone, they're going to know that's who you're talking about. But you can't, for privacy concerns, you can't use their name unless they explicitly
Unless they
agree to that.
give permission.
That's why you have to sort of dance around it and
Just
say
keeps
you may
getting
have been
worse.
exposed.
Yeah, we've been doing it, and I feel your frustration. We've been doing this for 2 years, where it's like, oh, somebody's missing. guess what happened, you know, and then you're like, okay, and then everyone connects the dots. I mean, it's borderline ridiculous, but there are privacy rights in
This
place.
is Diane, and I got to even add to that, because if the student puts it in writing to you, it's technically, and their name is in there, now you're technically have a student record. And if it's student record, you can't share anything unless the student signs something telling you you can do it.
Thank you, Diane.
Is it
Yeah.
email signature?
No, I don't thank you,
Email
Diane.
signature is nice.
So what do I have to do, Diane?
I think you just don't share it. You know, you do what Eric says, and it's like somebody's been exposed. I mean, unless they're willing to sign, if they're willing to like get a piece of paper out and say it is all right, you know, I give you permission to share this information with the class, and they sign it and scan it, send it to you, then you're okay. But an email is not a signature, and you have to have a written signature under FERPA to disclose.
But you still have the responsibility to, for example, if our risk analysis shows that you had a COVID positive person on stage dancing with cast member X and cast member Y, it's your responsibility to inform them that they may have been exposed to COVID. You just can't use the name.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, and FERPA does have a clause in it that says exceptions to the rules are, you know, to protect the health and safety of others, but it's a fine line. I think you're better off. I mean, you know, you've got a situation, Stephanie, where everybody in the classroom might be able to figure out who it is, but it's still probably better to not mention a name.
Is it better to send out a global announcement to the whole class and just say there has been a case of COVID? Everyone may have been in contact. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right?
I think that's what we're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. Rather than catching the people. Let's talk more offline, Stephanie. This is the most interesting one.
Yeah, you just got to be careful.
This is the most interesting one, and I'm sorry, I just want to have more answers than questions, but it's just not one of those situations. The idea too that you could bring in a performing arts group that we say, come and do this show for us, and we require them to be vaccinated because they're outside contractors and not students. Yeah, we can't do that. The same thing for students bothers me, but I don't quite know how to work through it just yet. Are there any performances that they don't sing? Sorry.
No.
You don't want to do the Zoom boxes were awesome, but I understand the need for I mean, I understand the how it plays out and quite literally pun
Yeah,
intended.
they don't bring in the income to pay the bills. So, yeah.
And not that I want this, Stephanie, but you know, based on 2020, that the CARES funding can be used for lost revenue and auxiliary events like performing arts. So don't stress yourself out about finances until after May anyway, but let's just keep doing what we can do. So Heather asked about utilizing quarantine exemption for those with prior I don't understand the 90-day piece because it's only a 5-day quarantine.
If someone who's had COVID in the last 90 days, can they be exempted from the quarantine process just for our students? So maybe this can be a different meeting. I can ask.
Yeah, why don't we, Eric, why don't we follow up on that and see what is needed there?
The short answer is no.
So they've been exposed 89 days ago, they still can't come in? Anyway.
It was updated on the 13th.
Can I mention something about this? The United States rules of for people coming into the US who are foreigners is that if they have been exposed, all they need is a certificate that they have recovered, but they don't have to quarantine.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is somebody who has had COVID in the last 90 days, when they come to the US, they don't need to quarantine.
But if they had it
So
sooner,
they don't have to have a negative test either.
Okay.
So
we'll try to, let's talk through that one off to the side, Heather. We'll get that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, what else, you guys? 3:15. I'm cognizant of time, but I'm willing to stay.
I have a question. Can we talk about Martin's and Terry Mendez's chat? Says, is it the faculty's responsibility to inform those exposed? And then Terry said that should be for whoever does contact tracing and not the instructor.
So are we still doing contact tracing, Eric? No. other
Well,
than awareness?
for every reported case, we do a risk analysis. And part of that risk analysis is trying to determine, if we determine that they were infected while they were on campus, trying to determine everyone that they were potentially exposed. In the case of faculty and students, it seems like most faculty want to deal with that. If they do not want to, I am more than happy to. If I determine through a risk analysis that one or more students have been exposed, I contact them. And in some cases, I require that the class quarantine.
Okay, so I think that
in those cases, I notify those students.
so then the answer would be yes, but if you don't want to, Eric's willing to do it and do the follow-up on it once the analysis is done.
course,
Or give you the tools to do it.
That's all complicated now by the, well, if you're vaccinated, if you're boosted, if you're not vaccinated, differences in guidance. So in almost all cases, well, in all cases where there's a high risk of exposure in a classroom, I'm in close contact with the faculty member, and it's going to be more complicated. So we will have to discuss this. There's no way for us to know how many of those students are vaccinated and or boosted and how many aren't. So we're going to have to make a decision in concert with the faculty member for that class.
Because at the beginning of last semester, in my Chem 100, I had a lot of Jumpstart students, and there was a lot of people being quarantined, but I don't know who was handling it, but it seems like Oasis was handling it, but they were leaving all over the place at the beginning of the semester. So I didn't really have to handle it. I don't know who was handling it, but it was the Oasis students.
Yeah, Gary, in that case, it was Oasis. I asked multiple times for us to work together on that, and was not successful.
Oh, okay.
And that's a extra special population. So I don't know if it's good that they're helping us or not, Eric. We'll have to watch that this semester. One of the other things I want to mention too, because we're talking about outbreaks in the classroom and that thing, we have been directed and again support the idea that we stay open. There's been a lot of talk about, do we start remote for the first 2 weeks? Again, I don't know if the first 2 weeks are going to be the best time to talk about that, or maybe it's week 3 and 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 9 or whatever. We will pivot as needed and offer flexibility. But if Eric does his analysis and we need to make a class go remote, then we'll do that. I mean, we just have to do that because we don't want more people to get exposed. So what else? I've got, I think that's it for the chats. Now everyone's starting to say goodbye. So here we go. Listen, I appreciate everything everybody's doing. I had hoped that spring of 22 would be 2 years out and we'd be thinking, okay, we're all set. There's no confusion in our workspace. I know that's not, actually, I would embrace the regular confusion rather than COVID confusion. I don't like that we all spent a significant amount of time, some areas more than others, especially the back end stuff in admissions and records, to put a student vaccine process in place. And then on politics, it got undone immediately and we had to change it. I don't like that at all because it's workload that we didn't have the time for and that we thought we were doing the right thing. As we move into this year, this semester, this week, we will see what changes. The university's open today. TMCC and WNC and maybe CSN, I think, open next Monday. We will see where we are as we move in toward the end of this week. Everything is changing like by not by the minute as much as by the hour, but it's interesting what happened to me between 6 and 9 a.m. with all the calls and somebody's out, what do we do with this? What do we do with that? It changed from when I woke up to when I walked in and on the ride in. So we will continue to watch it. So we'll just we'll keep moving forward. I appreciate you guys tolerating the lack of definitive answers, but unfortunately that's the space we're living in. The final question, this COVID statement for syllabus. Eric, if we can look at that, get that out maybe tomorrow, I think we'll shoot for that just so that we don't rush it right after this meeting, but we can get it out for you tomorrow so you can drop it into your syllabi and have something more current. We'll do that one. So.
I apologize for interrupting, Kyle. I just wanted to mention to Heather and Brigitte that on January 9th, the CDC did update their guidance to deal with situation where if you have tested positive with a viral test in the last 90 days, you also do not have to quarantine. And so I think we should adopt that.
Okay.
It just makes the situation even more complicated.
Yeah, let's add it to the bottom of the, let's add it to the triaging. So, please take care of yourselves. Don't forget too, that once you leave our campus, it's not a bad idea when you're at Walmart to wear the mask. I know you all do, but you'll see more people there that we don't have any purview over. That, matter of fact, use the mobile shopping. It's really cool. You don't have to wander around and you get the stuff delivered right to your car, but take advantage of those things because we are so thin staffed, and for your health, I don't want anyone to go down. For operations, we don't want anybody to go down. We want to keep people as healthy as possible. So please take care of yourselves. Have a great semester. Next week is showtime, and we'll see what happens between now and then. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.